They say every marriage has its cracks. Ours had entire fault lines, though Rachel liked to dance on them in high heels. To outsiders, we were perfect. A nice house, polished smiles, dinner parties where she bragged about her father's estate as if the check was already hers. She called it our future, but you could tell she meant her freedom. I didn't care much about money. I worked steady hours, paid the bills, and enjoyed quiet pleasures. Coffee at dawn, fixing old watches, my son's laughter echoing through the hall. Rachel thrived on the grand stage. Designer handbags, fancy restaurants, vacations that cost more than my car. Subtlety wasn't her style, flamboyance was. Her favorite topic lately was her father's imminent inheritance. He wasn't dead yet, but Rachel acted like the funds had already cleared. She sprinkled mentions into conversations with smug little smiles. When Dad's estate clears, we'll finally trade up this dump. Or, Kyle says I should invest in condos. Oh, did I say Kyle? Little slips, tiny smirks. The night I discovered her affair wasn't fireworks. It was mundane, sloppy, insulting. I came home early thinking she was watching a sitcom. But sitcoms don't moan, leave wine glasses on the nightstand, or drape a stranger's tie across the bedpost like a flag of conquest. Silence had never felt so loud. She didn't even try to hide it. Pulling sheets over her chest, she smirked. David, you weren't supposed to be home yet. Her lover, red-faced, muttered about traffic. I didn't yell or slam doors. I simply studied them like a bad painting. My silence wasn't weakness, it was calculation, patience sharpened into a blade. The next morning, Rachel poured a mimosa and chirped. Don't be dramatic. Once the inheritance clears, you'll understand. We'll both get what we want. I asked what I was supposed to want. She smiled. Freedom, stability. Call it an allowance for your silence. The audacity burned. For weeks, I played the fool. Let her prance around, whispering into her phone, planning wardrobes and secret vacations. She thought she was untouchable, shielded by millions she didn't yet have. Meanwhile, I watched quietly, noting every smirk, every careless laugh, every whispered word to Kyle. Then the curious thing happened. The money never arrived. First it was a delay in probate. Then, the lawyer's incompetent. Then, the bank is dragging their feet. Rachel called daily, leaving desperate voicemails. Nights were worse. She paced the living room, nails bitten to the quick, muttering to herself. I sipped coffee, pretending to read. Rough day? I'd ask. She'd glare, storm off, muttering curses like a mantra. Weeks bled into months. No checks, no transfers, no polite letters. Kyle began vanishing too. Fewer visits, shorter calls, silence. Rachel slammed her phone down, muttering, Coward. Yet she still clung to the belief that the inheritance was hers. She just couldn't find it. She dug through files, reread her father's will like scripture. Nothing looked wrong on paper. She even hired a private accountant who shrugged after 3 days. Funds aren't traceable. Could be hidden clauses. Rachel nearly threw him out of the house. I remained calm, tossing her little barbs like coins. Maybe money doesn't like you, like a stray cat. It shows up when you don't chase it. By summer, Rachel was unraveling. Stopped buying dresses, stopped bragging at dinners. Friends whispered about her missing mansion. She told them the estate was complicated. The truth was simpler. It was gone. But she didn't know how, and she couldn't stop the paranoia from consuming her. Sometimes I caught her staring at me, suspicion brewing. Did Dad ever say anything to you? Talk to his lawyer? I'd shrug, mutter, Your dad was full of surprises. She'd stalk from room to room, frantic, chewing her lip, muttering to herself. Every glance in my direction was sharp, like she wanted to pierce me with questions. I started leaving subtle hints, little breadcrumbs she couldn't quite interpret. A casual comment about legal clauses, a mention of morality conditions in wills. Nothing concrete, just enough to seed unease. Her panic was a masterpiece in slow motion, and I, the audience, watched with quiet amusement. Her arrogance had always been her armor. Now the armor was rusting. Kyle was gone. Friends grew weary of her constant complaints. Her daily rituals became frantic hunts, phone calls, emails, appointments. Her high heels clicked across floors like a metronome counting down to chaos. By fall, confidence had collapsed. Lover gone, inheritance vanished, her father's legacy slipping through her fingers. Yet she clung to the idea that the money was out there, waiting to be claimed, if only she could find the missing piece. She didn't realize the missing piece was sitting across from her every night, smiling into his coffee, biding his time. Because the truth, that delicious, cruel truth, wasn't ready to be served. Not yet. And if you think her betrayal was shocking, wait until you see the price she paid for it. The stage is set. The audience is waiting. And the final act? That's coming soon. Rachel's panic became a ritual. Each morning she stormed out of bed, hair disheveled, phone in hand, muttering about lawyers and lost funds. I sipped my coffee like an audience member at a tragic comedy, watching her spiral with a mixture of fascination and quiet glee. Karma, it seemed, had sent her a boarding pass she wasn't ready to read. She began asking me direct questions. "David, did you hear anything from Dad's lawyer? Did he mention any conditions?" I shrugged, sipped, and said, "Surprises happen. You should know. You've always loved them." Her eyes flashed, searching for hidden meanings. Every glance, every question was a nail in her own coffin of uncertainty. Rachel's obsession with the missing inheritance had turned her into a detective without a badge. She printed statements, highlighted dates, cross-checked every line of the will. Each discovery brought hope. Each dead end birthed frustration. I offered mild comments. "Funny how money hides better than your common sense." She ignored me, but her clenched fists and shallow breaths betrayed rising tension. I decided it was time to step up my performance. After all, patience is most satisfying when served with a hint of cruelty. I suggested we review the estate's documents together. Her face lit with a predatory grin, convinced she could uncover the error that had stolen her fortune. Little did she know, every document she examined had already been carefully prepared. Weeks passed. Rachel grew thinner, sharper, her voice biting with every exchange. "David, stop mocking me," she'd hiss after a sarcastic comment about banking inefficiency. I maintained a neutral tone, punctuating observations with subtle humor. "I find suspense invigorating. You should try it. It builds character." Her glare could curdle milk, yet she still leaned on me, desperate for guidance. The turning point came unexpectedly. Rachel was late for dinner one evening, face pale, hands shaking. Her phone vibrated constantly with missed calls from lawyers, accountants, and even Kyle's lawyer. She muttered, "Everything's slipping through my fingers. How is this possible?" I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the show, replying casually, "Maybe money isn't loyal. Strange, isn't it?" She realized then she couldn't rely on anyone else. Kyle had vanished completely. Friends had grown tired of her complaints. Her father's estate, her armor, her confidence, her smug sense of security, was proving elusive. She was alone, stripped to panic and desperation, the perfect canvas for revelation. I began subtly guiding her. "Check this account. Look for discrepancies. Don't forget the legal clauses regarding marital conduct." Her brow furrowed, scanning documents with frantic precision. The accountant had been useless. Lawyers were tight-lipped. She grew frantic, muttering, pacing, slamming doors, tossing files across rooms. Her chaos was art, her panic a symphony I conducted silently. Finally, the moment arrived. Rachel stormed into the study, tossing documents onto the desk. "David, explain this. Explain why the money never reached me." I looked up calmly, placing my coffee down, voice steady and deliberate. "I think it's time you understand the consequences of your choices." Her breath caught. She didn't see it coming. Not the revelation, not the carefully orchestrated downfall. I explained, slowly, savoring each word. "Your father's will had provisions you overlooked, clauses about moral conduct, fidelity, and honesty. I merely ensured the law executed them as intended." Her face went pale. Her hands shook as the papers fell from her grip. You did this?" You? I nodded, voice dry, almost amused. Yes, you lost it the same night you lost me. Consider it marital tax. The realization hit her like ice water. All her planning, all her secret trysts, all the arrogance about inevitable millions had backfired. Kyle was gone. Friends whispered about her desperation. Lawyers confirmed the estate's actions. She had nothing. No money, no lover, no support, and no dignity left intact. Rachel's meltdown was poetic. She paced the room, screamed, slammed doors, and muttered curses that ricocheted off the walls. I sat in the armchair, calm, sipping coffee, occasionally muttering, "Funny how karma can be slow, but legally effective." Each word, each glance reminded her who truly held power. The inheritance had vanished in the hands of the law, not by chance, but by design. Her design, ironically, exploited through the very rules she thought trivial. Her betrayal triggered the clauses, and my patience ensured the full effect. Watching her unravel was a study in human folly, ambition, and the perils of greed. Weeks turned into months. Rachel was a shadow of herself. She stopped hosting parties, stopped flaunting designer clothes, and began obsessing over every missed call, every unanswered email. Friends kept their distance, unwilling to navigate her desperation. Kyle had disappeared without a trace. She realized too late that she had overplayed her hand. I maintained my composure. Even her accusations, her pleading, her desperate offers of reconciliation fell on deaf ears. "I didn't want this to be about money," she said once, voice trembling. I smirked slightly, replying, "Neither did I. You just made it about both betrayal and consequences." Rachel eventually understood the full scope. The inheritance was legally inaccessible, her affair ruined her credibility, and her ego shattered. The very arrogance that made her think she could cheat and thrive had become the instrument of her downfall. Every smug smile, every whispered plan with Kyle had led her here, empty-handed, exposed, and humiliated. The final confrontation was anticlimactic yet satisfying. She stood across the room, rage and despair mixing into something almost pitiful. I looked at her evenly, voice calm. "You gambled with loyalty and honesty. You lost. It's not me you should blame. It's yourself. Your choices." Her silence spoke volumes. She had no clever retort, no excuse, no leverage. The inheritance was gone, her lover gone, and the life she imagined vanished. Only I remained, a quiet observer of justice delivered in the slowest, cruelest possible way. As the sun set, she sat alone, sifting through her papers, muttering about hidden mistakes and oversights. I left the room, coffee in hand, voice trailing behind me. Champagne dreams have a bitter aftertaste when reality pours the first glass. And so it ended. Rachel's betrayal had cost her everything. Not because I wanted revenge, but because consequences have a way of catching up, especially when arrogance blinds you. The missing inheritance, the vanished lover, the whispers of friends, all aligned to show one truth. Deceit can be poetic when paired with patience and strategy. Some nights I still watch her from across the room, coffee in hand, noting her frantic movements, her muttered curses. A smirk crosses my face. She wanted a life built on betrayal, ambition, and greed. She got suspense, loss, and lessons she'll never forget. The stage is clear, the curtain has fallen, and in this theater, the audience knows that sometimes the quietest player has the sharpest hand.